The car swerved sharply as Juncio slammed the steering wheel to the left, narrowly missing a delivery truck as it sped through a red light. Tires screamed against wet asphalt. The city blurred around them in streaks of neon and shadow, sirens echoing somewhere behind, but not close enough to matter. In the back seat, Amara gasped, clutching their newborn daughter tightly to her chest. The baby whimpered, a fragile sound that cut through Juncio like glass. Juncio, Amara's voice shook. They're still behind us. I know, he said, eyes locked on the road, jaw clenched so hard it ached. His knuckles were white against the steering wheel. Hold her steady. Another black sedan appeared in the rearview mirror. Closer now. Too close. Juncio slammed his foot down harder. The engine roared in protest as the car surged forward, weaving through early morning traffic like a blade slicing through cloth. His heart pounded, not with fear for himself, but with terror for the two lives behind him. He would die before letting anything happen to them. If you're watching right now, stay with me. And if you haven't yet, gently tap that subscribe button, give this video a like, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. This part 2 is where everything truly changes. The black sedan tried to box them in. Juncio made a split-second decision. He turned sharply into a narrow side street. One way, barely wide enough for two cars. The alley lights flickered overhead as trash bins and brick walls rushed past. The pursuing car followed, but hesitated. That hesitation cost them. Juncio slammed the brakes, spun the wheel, and reversed hard. The maneuver so sudden it sent Amara gasping as she braced herself instinctively around the baby. The pursuing sedan screeched, unable to stop in time. Metal collided with a deafening crash. Juncio didn't wait to see the damage. He slammed forward again, bursting out onto the next street and disappearing into traffic. Only when the black sedan vanished from the mirrors did his chest finally heave with a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Silence fell, broken only by the baby's soft breathing. Amara looked down at their daughter, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. She's okay, she whispered. She's okay. Juncio's throat tightened painfully. He didn't respond. Not yet. Because the danger wasn't over. Not even close. They arrived at the safe house just as dawn began bleeding into the sky. It wasn't glamorous. No towering gates, no armed guards in suits. Just a quiet brownstone tucked between two abandoned storefronts in Brooklyn. The kind of place no one looked at twice. May was already waiting. She opened the door the second the car stopped. Inside. Now. Juncio killed the engine and rushed around to the back door, his movements careful but urgent. Amara stepped out slowly, weak from surgery, exhaustion etched deep into her face. Juncio was at her side instantly, one arm around her waist, the other steadying the baby carrier. I've got you, he murmured. Inside, the safe house was warm and dimly lit. Clean. Quiet. Safe, for now. May locked the door behind them and immediately began checking windows, cameras, and security feeds. Min-jae leaned against the wall, rubbing his face. We lost them, he said. For now. For now, Juncio echoed. Amara lowered herself onto the couch carefully, cradling the baby. She looked around the unfamiliar space, fear creeping back into her eyes. How long can we stay here? May hesitated. Juncio noticed. How long? He repeated sharper. May exhaled. Until the elders make their move. Amara frowned faintly. Elders? Juncio stiffened. This was the conversation he'd been avoiding. The one that scared him more than any enemy on the street. The Syndicate Council, he said quietly. They won't ignore this. Because of me? Amara asked. Because of her, May corrected gently, nodding toward the baby. And because Juncio just made it very clear where his loyalty lies. Amara's grip tightened protectively around their daughter. Juncio crouched in front of her, lowering himself so they were eye level. His voice softened. Listen to me. Whatever happens next, I will not let them touch you. Or her. I don't care what it costs. Amara searched his face, really searched it, as if weighing the truth of his words. You're asking me to trust you again, she said quietly. I know, he replied. And I know I don't deserve it easily. But I'm not the same man who let you walk out that door. Her eyes glistened. Then prove it. He nodded once. I will. The baby stirred, letting out a tiny cry. Juncio reached out instinctively, brushing his finger against her cheek. She quieted almost immediately. Something in his chest shifted. This fragile, living proof of love and pain and second chances, was worth everything. Even war. If you're still watching, thank you. Stories like this only grow because of people like you. Gently like the video. Subscribe if you feel connected to this story. Juncio didn't sleep. He stood by the narrow window of the safe house long after the city outside had fully woken up, watching strangers walk past as if nothing in the world had changed. Cars honked. People laughed. Life went on. Inside, everything was fragile. Amara slept lightly on the couch, her body still weak, one arm curled protectively around their daughter. The baby lay against her chest, tiny fists tucked under her chin, breathing in soft, uneven bursts that made Juncio's heart tighten every time her chest rose. May moved quietly through the room, checking feeds on a tablet, murmuring into an earpiece. Min-jae sat at the small dining table, laptop open, fingers flying as he pulled up reports, Messages, rumors. Junseo finally turned away from the window. Talk to me. Minjae didn't look up. The Parks are furious. The hospital stunt embarrassed them. They lost 2 men, 1 car, and leverage. And the elders? Junseo asked. Minjae paused. They've called for a council meeting. Tonight. Amara stirred at the sound of Junseo's name. Her eyes fluttered open, still hazy with sleep and pain. Council, she whispered. Junseo was at her side instantly. Don't worry about it. She frowned faintly. That's exactly what you used to say before things went wrong. He winced, then nodded. You're right. He took a slow breath. The elders run the syndicate. They decide alliances, punishments, consequences. And they won't like that you chose me, she said softly. They won't like that I chose my family, he corrected. Her gaze dropped to the baby. What happens if they decide against you? Junseo didn't answer immediately. May did. Then Junseo becomes a liability instead of an asset. Amara's grip tightened. Meaning? May met her eyes, not unkindly. Meaning they'll try to remove him. The room went quiet. Junseo reached for Amara's hand. That won't happen. You can't promise that, Amara said, fear threading her voice. I can promise I won't let them hurt you, he said firmly. Or her. And you? She asked. He smiled faintly. I've survived worse. She didn't smile back. The baby began to fuss, a soft whine that grew into a cry. Amara shifted with a wince, clearly in pain. Junseo immediately scooped the baby up, cradling her awkwardly but carefully. I've got her, he murmured. Amara watched him, something unreadable in her eyes as he paced slowly, rocking their daughter against his chest. His movements were stiff at first, unsure, a man who knew violence far better than gentleness. But the baby quieted. She pressed her tiny face into his shirt, fingers curling instinctively. Amara let out a shaky breath. She knows you. Junseo swallowed. I'll spend my life making sure she always does. Minjae cleared his throat. We should talk about names. Amara blinked. Names. For the baby, Minjae said. Hospital paperwork won't wait forever. Junseo glanced at Amara. Have you thought about it? She hesitated. I did. When I was alone. His chest tightened at the reminder. What did you choose? She looked down at their daughter. Arya. Junseo repeated it quietly. Arya. It means noble, Amara said. Strong. Free. A faint smile touched his lips. It suits her. May nodded once. Arya Re. Amara stiffened at the surname. Junseo noticed immediately. We can talk about that, he said gently. Nothing is decided without you. Her shoulders eased slightly. Thank you. By late afternoon, the air felt heavier. Junseo changed into a dark coat, the familiar armor settling over him like a second skin. But something was different now. He didn't feel powerful. He felt exposed. May approached him quietly. The council won't expect you to bring anyone. I'm not, Junseo said. She hesitated. They'll test you. I know. They may offer you a way out, Minjae added. If you give them something in return. Junseo's eyes darkened. They won't touch my family. Minjae studied him. Hyung, if they demand you leave Amara and the baby behind to keep peace. Junseo cut him off. The meeting is about to get very short. Amara watched from the couch, heart pounding. You're walking into a room full of men who don't care if you live or die. Junseo knelt in front of her again. I'm walking in as a man with something worth fighting for. She reached up, touching his face, the scar, the sharp jawline, the familiar warmth beneath the danger. Come back. He pressed his forehead to hers. I will. Then, softer. If I don't. She shook her head fiercely. Don't. He kissed her gently, not desperate, not rushed. Just real. For a moment, the world outside ceased to exist. Then he stood and walked out. The council chamber was quiet in a way that felt predatory. Junseo entered alone. Men twice his age watched him from the long table, faces carved from years of power and cruelty. At the center sat Elder Kong, his eyes sharp with interest. You've caused quite a disruption, Kong said calmly. Junseo didn't bow. I protected my family. Kong smiled thinly. A dangerous habit. You called me here to threaten me, Junseo said. Or to bargain. Kong leaned back. We called you here to remind you who you are. Junseo's voice was steady. I know exactly who I am. And who is that? Kong asked. Junseo met every gaze in the room. A man who will not sacrifice his child for your comfort. The room murmured. Kang's smile faded. Then you force our hand. Junseo's pulse slowed. Then do what you must, he said. But understand this. If anything happens to them, there will be no peace. Not for you. Not for anyone. Silence. Finally, Kong chuckled. You've grown bold. No, Junseo said. I've grown honest. The elders exchanged looks. Kong tapped the table once. We'll see if love makes you stronger or weaker. Back at the safe house, Amara paced slowly, wincing with every step, anxiety twisting her stomach. May stood near the door, listening to updates through her earpiece. Then, footsteps. A knock. Everyone froze. May's hand went to her weapon. The door opened. Junseo stepped inside. Amara rushed to him without thinking, pain forgotten. He caught her, arms wrapping around her tightly. You're back, she whispered, voice breaking. I told you, he murmured into her hair. But his expression was grim. Minjae noticed. What did they say? Junseo looked down at Arya, asleep in Amara's arms. They gave me a choice, he said quietly, and a deadline. The room went still. 3 days, he continued, to prove my loyalty or prepare for war. If you're still here with me, thank you for staying. If this story is pulling you in, gently like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Junseo should fight or run? Your support truly means everything. The room stayed quiet long after Junseo finished speaking. 3 days. The words hung in the air like a ticking clock, loud even in silence. Amara sank slowly back onto the couch, her body heavy, her heart heavier. A deadline, she repeated softly. For what? Junseo didn't answer immediately. He removed his coat, folded it over the chair with deliberate calm, as if buying himself time to choose the right words. To prove I still belong, he said finally. Or to show them I'm willing to cut ties with anything they consider a weakness. Amara looked down at Arya instinctively, pulling her closer. They mean us. Yes, Junseo said. They mean you. They mean her. Minjae cursed under his breath. May's jaw tightened. And if you don't? Minjae asked. Junseo met his brother's eyes. They'll move against me. Against all of us. The baby stirred, letting out a soft cry, as if sensing the tension. Amara rocked her gently, tears threatening to spill. So what's the plan? She whispered. Because I can't live like this. Waiting for men I don't even know to decide whether my child deserves to be safe. Junseo crossed the room and knelt in front of her again. He always came down to her level now. Not looming. Not towering. Equal. The plan, he said quietly, is that I don't make this decision alone. She searched his face. What does that mean? It means no more secrets, he said. No more shielding you with silence. Everything on the table. Even the ugly parts. May glanced away. Minjae leaned back, arms crossed, knowing exactly how rare that promise was. Junseo continued. The elders want a show of loyalty. Something big. Something that reminds the city I'm still one of them. And you don't want to give them that, Amara said. No, he admitted. Because the kind of loyalty they want costs blood. Her breath caught. Whose blood? He didn't answer. She understood anyway. That night, the safe house felt smaller. Amara lay in the bedroom May had prepared, Arya asleep in a makeshift bassinet beside the bed. Junseo sat in the chair near the window, watching both of them like a sentinel. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Amara asked quietly, breaking the silence. He turned. About the council? About how dangerous it really was, she said. About how deep you were in. He ran a hand through his hair. Because once you see it clearly, you can't unsee it. I lived in fear for 8 months, she replied. I gave birth alone. I ran because I was scared. And now you're telling me fear was justified. His chest tightened. I never wanted this for you. But it's our reality, she said. And I need to know, if it comes down to it, will you really walk away? Yes, he said without hesitation. Even if it means losing everything. He stood and crossed to the crib, looking down at Arya's tiny face. I already almost lost everything, he said softly. I won't make that mistake twice. Amara watched him for a long moment. Then let me help. He frowned slightly. Help how? She shifted carefully, sitting up. You don't get to carry this alone anymore. If we're a family, we make decisions as one. Junseo exhaled slowly. This isn't a world you should have to navigate. But I am navigating it, she said. Whether you like it or not. Their eyes locked. Something passed between them. Respect, fear, trust slowly rebuilding. Okay, he said at last. Then here's everything. By morning, Amara knew more about the syndicate than she ever wanted to. About the parks. About the alliances. About how Junseo's refusal to marry into another family had weakened certain power structures. About how Arya's existence made everything complicated. They see her as leverage, Amara said quietly. Yes, Junseo replied. And as a symbol. A threat, she added. He nodded. She looked out the window at the quiet street. Then maybe we stop playing defense. Minjae looked up sharply. What do you mean? Amara turned back to them, resolve hardening beneath exhaustion. You said the elders want proof of loyalty. What if instead, you give them proof that you're untouchable? Junseo studied her. Go on. You didn't rise by following the rules, she said. You rose by being smarter, by seeing angles others missed. Minji's lips curved into a slow smile. She's not wrong. May raised an eyebrow. Are we listening to strategy from a woman who gave birth less than 48 hours ago? Amara met her gaze calmly. I survived 8 months alone. Don't underestimate me. Junseo felt a strange swell of pride. What's your idea? He asked. She took a breath. You give the elders what they want, without spilling blood. You expose the parks. The room stilled. Minjae leaned forward. Expose them how? They're already reckless, Amara said. They moved at the hospital. In public. That breaks codes. If you can prove they endangered civilians, babies. They lose support, May finished slowly. And legitimacy. Junseo's eyes sharpened. It would turn the council against them. And buy you time, Amara said. Time to disappear. Or to rebuild on your terms. Minjae let out a low whistle. That's bold. Junseo stared at Amara, something like awe flickering across his face. You're sure about this? She looked down at Arya, then back at him. I'll do anything to keep her safe. He reached for her hand. Then we do this together. That evening, Junseo began making calls, not threats, not commands, but quiet inquiries. Min-jae worked beside him, pulling records, cross-checking movements. Mei coordinated resources with ruthless efficiency, and Amara watched, listened, learned. She saw now how carefully Junseo moved, how much restraint it took to rule without chaos. She saw the man behind the legend. By nightfall, they had something. Footage, Min-jae said, eyes gleaming. The hospital parking structure. The park's men. Weapons visible. Mei nodded. And witnesses. Junseo closed his eyes briefly. This changes the board. Amara felt a shiver run through her. Is it enough? It will be, Junseo said. If the council sees it. And if they don't, she asked. He met her gaze. Then we run. She nodded slowly. Together. He squeezed her hand. Always. Outside, the city lights flickered on, unaware that decisions made in a quiet Brooklyn safe house were about to shake everything. If you're still watching, thank you for staying with this story. If it's pulling at you, gently like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Do you think Amara's plan will work? The footage played on the laptop screen in chilling silence. Amara watched as shadowy figures move through the hospital parking structure, faces half-covered, weapons visible beneath jackets, their movements aggressive and careless. The timestamp glowed clearly in the corner. Min-jae paused the video. This is enough to sink them. Junseo leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes cold and focused. Enough to fracture their alliance, he corrected. But not enough to destroy them completely. Mei folded her arms. The elders won't move unless it benefits them. Amara looked up. Then make it benefit them. Junseo glanced at her. You're thinking 3 steps ahead. I had 8 months to think, she said quietly. Silence followed. Not uncomfortable, but heavy with acknowledgement. Junseo straightened. We present this tomorrow night. Not as an attack, but as concern. We frame it as reckless behavior that threatens the syndicate's invisibility. And your loyalty? Min-jae asked. Junseo's lips thinned. I remind them that I've kept the city stable for years. No chaos. No headlines. Mei nodded slowly. You'll need leverage. Junseo's gaze flicked back to the screen. This is leverage. Later that night, Amara struggled to sleep. Arya lay curled against her chest, warm and impossibly small. Every tiny sound made Amara tense, her body still wired from fear and adrenaline. Junseo noticed from the doorway. You should rest, he said softly. She shook her head. Every time I close my eyes, I hear sirens. He crossed the room and sat on the edge of the bed. You don't have to be strong right now. She let out a shaky breath. I've been strong for so long, I don't know how to stop. He hesitated, then gently brushed his thumb across her knuckles. You don't have to stop. Just lean. She did. Her head rested against his shoulder, and for a few quiet seconds, the world narrowed to the soft rise and fall of Arya's breathing. Do you regret it? She asked suddenly. He stiffened. Regret what? Choosing us, she said. Over everything. He answered without hesitation. No. She tilted her head slightly. Not even a little? He shook his head. Power is loud. Love is quiet. I mistook noise for importance. Her lips curved faintly. You sound different. I am different. The next day passed slowly. Junseo made final preparations while Min-jae coordinated discreetly. Mei arranged transport routes and backups. No one said the word danger, but it lingered in every look. When the time came, Junseo dressed carefully. Black suit, crisp lines, no weapon visible. A message, not a threat. Amara watched him from the couch, Arya asleep in her arms. You don't have to do this alone. He knelt in front of her. I need you safe. She searched his face. Come back. I will, he said again, as if the words themselves were armor. The council chamber felt colder than before. Elder Kong studied Junseo as he entered. You return quickly. I return prepared. Junseo replied evenly. A subtle murmur rippled through the room. Junseo placed the tablet on the table and slid it forward. This happened under our watch. The footage rolled. Faces hardened. Whispers sharpened. Kang's expression shifted, not anger, but calculation. The parks endangered civilians. They endangered the syndicate, Junseo said calmly. Hospitals draw attention. Children draw headlines. Silence fell. You bring this to us now. Kong asked. Junseo met his gaze. Because loyalty doesn't mean silence. It means protection of the whole. A long pause. Then Kong leaned back. You've made your point. Junseo exhaled slowly. But understand this, Kong continued. Exposing them creates instability. Junseo nodded. So does letting them continue. The elders exchanged looks. Finally, Kong spoke again. We will review this. Junseo inclined his head once. That's all I ask. As he turned to leave, Kong added quietly. You've changed, Junseo. Junseo paused. Yes. Back at the safe house, the weight was unbearable. Amara paced slowly, pain flaring with each step, anxiety twisting tighter by the minute. Min-jae refreshed his phone repeatedly. Mei remained silent, eyes sharp. Then Junseo walked in. Amara rushed to him. What happened? They're divided, he said. But the parks are on thin ice. Her shoulders sagged slightly. That's good. It buys us time, Mei said. And time is leverage, Min-jae added. Juncio looked down at Arya, sleeping peacefully despite everything. Time is life. Amara reached for his hand. So what now? Now, Juncio said, we prepare for the next move. Because even as one threat weakened, another was already forming. And Juncio knew one truth with painful clarity. The hardest part wasn't fighting enemies. It was protecting love in a world built to destroy it. The calm didn't last. Juncio felt it before anyone said a word. The subtle shift in the air, the way May's shoulders tensed as she checked her phone for the 5th time in under a minute. Min-jae stopped typing, his fingers hovering above the keyboard, eyes narrowing at the screen. What is it? Juncio asked. May looked up slowly. The Parks aren't retreating. Amara's heart skipped. You said they were weakened. They are, May replied. Which makes them dangerous. Min-jae turned his laptop around. They're leaking a story. Not to the elders, to the streets. Juncio's jaw tightened. What kind of story? Min-jae swallowed. That you've gone soft. That your loyalty is compromised because of your family. Amara instinctively pulled Arya closer. And that's not all, Min-jae continued. They're saying the baby isn't yours. The words landed like a slap. Amara froze. What? Juncio's eyes darkened instantly. They're questioning her legitimacy. May nodded grimly. In this world, rumors are weapons. If they can undermine Arya's place, they weaken your claim. Amara's voice shook. They're trying to erase her. Juncio stood so fast the chair scraped loudly across the floor. They will not touch my child. But this isn't about touching, Min-jae said carefully. It's about narrative. If enough people believe it. Juncio slammed his fist into the wall. Enough. Silence followed. Amara took a slow breath, forcing herself to stay steady. So what do we do? Juncio turned to her, eyes fierce but controlled. We in the story. Completely. May raised an eyebrow. Meaning, Juncio said, I step into the light. Min-jae blinked. That's not your style. It is now, Juncio replied. That night, Juncio made a decision that would have been unthinkable a year ago. He called a press intermediary, not a journalist, someone quieter, someone who dealt in controlled leaks and carefully framed truths. By morning, whispers would become headlines in the right circles. Amara watched him from the kitchen doorway, Arya asleep against her shoulder. You're really going to do this? Yes, he said, not looking away from his phone. They want attention? I'll decide what kind. And what does that mean for us? She asked softly. He turned then, crossing the room until he stood in front of her. It means I claim you. Publicly. Without shame. Her breath caught. Juncio, I should have done it the day I married you, he said quietly. I won't make that mistake again. She searched his face. Once you do this, there's no going back. I know. And you're okay with that? He glanced down at Arya, then back to Amara. I've never been more sure of anything. The message went out just before dawn. Not flashy. Not loud. Just undeniable. Photos of Juncio entering a private clinic days earlier. Records confirming the birth. A single, carefully worded statement circulated through the underground. Juncio re-acknowledges the birth of his daughter. Any claims disputing her parentage are considered hostile. No threats. No explanations. Just truth. By noon, the response came swiftly. May read the update aloud. The elders are furious. Min-jae smirked faintly. About the Parks? May shook her head. About you forcing their hand. Juncio exhaled slowly. Good. And the Parks? Amara asked. May's lips curved into something sharp. Panicking. But panic made people reckless. That afternoon, a black SUV was spotted idling 2 blocks away. May noticed it first. Then Min-jae. Then Juncio. They're watching, Min-jae said. Amara's chest tightened. Here. Juncio nodded once. They want to remind me they're still close. May already had her phone out. We need to move. No, Juncio said. Not yet. Amara stared at him. Juncio. They expect us to run, he said calmly. We don't. Min-jae frowned. You sure about this? Juncio met his brother's gaze. It's time they understand something. He walked to the front window and opened the blinds fully. Let them see. Let them know. He wasn't hiding anymore. That evening, as the sun dipped low, the SUV finally moved on. But the message was clear. This wasn't over. Amara sat beside Juncio on the couch later that night, exhaustion weighing heavy on her bones. I don't want Arya growing up like this, she whispered. He turned to her, serious. She won't. You can't promise that, she said, voice trembling. I can promise I'll change the rules, he replied. She studied him. That's dangerous. He smiled faintly. So was falling in love with me. Despite herself, she let out a small, shaky laugh. Then her expression sobered. Juncio, if it comes down to it, if they force you to choose again. I won't, he interrupted. But if they do, I already chose, he said firmly. There is no again. Arya stirred, her tiny fingers curling as if agreeing. Juncio leaned down, brushing his lips against her forehead. This world tried to break me, he murmured. But you rebuilt me. Amara's eyes filled with tears. Outside, the city hummed, unaware that the balance of power was shifting, not through violence, but through love that refused to be hidden. And somewhere in the shadows, the Parks were preparing their next move. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Junseo's decision to go public was brave or reckless? The call came just after midnight. Junseo answered it before the second ring, his instincts already flaring. Speak. May's voice came through low and urgent. They've made their move. Junseo straightened instantly. Where? Minji's route. He was followed. Amara sat up sharply from the couch, Arya stirring against her chest. What happened? Junseo muted the phone for half a second. Stay calm. Then back into the call. Is he hurt? No, May said, but they wanted him to know they could have. Junseo's jaw tightened. That was how the parks worked. Fear first, blood later. I'm on my way, Junseo said. No, May replied firmly. This is what they want. You moving without thinking. Junseo exhaled through his nose, forcing himself still. Then tell me everything. They boxed him in near the bridge, May continued. Didn't touch him. Just send a message. Amara's hands trembled slightly. They're circling closer. Junseo ended the call and turned to her. They're trying to isolate me. And provoke you, she added. Yes. She met his eyes. So don't give them what they want. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. You're right. That was new, Junseo listening before acting. By morning, Minjae was back at the safe house, unharmed but furious. They think they can scare us, he said, pacing. They think we'll break. They think wrong, Junseo replied calmly. Minjae stopped. Hyung, what's the play? Junseo glanced at Amara, then back to his brother. We flip the pressure. May leaned forward. Explain. They want chaos, Junseo said. They thrive in it. So we take something they value and make it visible. Amara frowned. You're not talking about violence. No, Junseo said. I'm talking about exposure. Minji's eyes widened slightly. You mean? Their finances, Junseo finished. The offshore accounts. The shell companies. The deals that keep them protected. May nodded slowly. If that gets out, they lose influence, Minjae said. Fast. And they won't know who to trust, Junseo added. Which is worse for them than bullets. Amara studied him. This puts a target on you. It already exists, he replied. This just forces an end. That night, Junseo didn't sleep again. But this time, he wasn't standing guard. He was planning. May coordinated with contacts who owed Junseo favors. Quiet ones, dangerous ones. Minjae traced financial trails with surgical focus. And Amara listened, absorbing more than anyone expected. At one point, Minjae glanced at her. You ever think about what you'd be doing if you hadn't met my brother? She smiled faintly. Sleeping. Eating normal meals. Not worrying about Hitman. Minjae snorted. Fair. Then, more serious. You're holding up better than most. She looked down at Arya. Because I have to. The leak hit 2 days later. Not all at once, strategically. Accounts frozen. Deals stalled. Names whispered in places they shouldn't be. The parks felt it immediately. May read the message aloud. They want a meeting. Junseo nodded once. They don't get one. They're desperate, Minjae said. That's dangerous. Amara tightened her hold on Arya. What does desperate look like for them? Junseo answered quietly. Unpredictable. That evening, as rain streaked the windows, Amara sat alone with Junseo in the bedroom. Promise me something, she said suddenly. He turned. Anything. If this ends badly, she said carefully, you won't sacrifice yourself thinking it's noble. His expression softened. You think I'd leave you again? I think you'd try to protect us, she said. Even if it cost you everything. He moved closer, taking her hands. Listen to me. I am not a martyr. I am a father. Her breath hitched. And fathers come home, he finished. She leaned into him then, resting her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat, steady, real. For the first time since the hospital, she believed they might survive this. The next morning, May burst in with urgency. We have a problem. Junseo turned sharply. What now? The elders, she said. They've chosen sides. Minjae looked up. Which side? May met Junseo's eyes. Yours. Amara's breath caught. That's good. It is, May agreed. But it comes with conditions. Junseo nodded slowly. Of course it does. They want the parks dismantled, May continued. Quietly. Permanently. Amara froze. That sounds like blood. Junseo didn't deny it. Silence fell. Finally, Amara spoke. And what do you want? Junseo turned to her fully. I want out. After this. Minjae blinked. Hyung. I've paid my dues, Junseo said. This is my last move. Amara searched his face. You swear. He took her hand and placed it over his heart. On everything we have. She nodded once. Then finish it. And come back. That night, Junseo prepared to leave. Not as a king, but as a man closing a chapter. Amara watched from the doorway, Arya asleep against her shoulder. Be careful. He stepped close, brushing a kiss across her temple. Always. And Junseo. Yes. Come back alive, she whispered. He smiled softly. I plan to. As the door closed behind him, Amara felt fear coil in her chest, but beneath it, something stronger. Hope. Because for the first time, Junseo wasn't fighting for power. He was fighting for a future. The warehouse sat at the edge of the river, lights low, rain pooling in uneven patches across cracked concrete. Junseo parked 2 blocks away and stepped out into the cold night air, pulling his coat tighter around him. This place held memories he'd buried years ago. Deals made. Promises broken. blood washed into the river and forgotten by morning. Tonight wasn't about power. It was about ending something. Inside, the air smelled of metal and damp wood. The park's men stood scattered, tense, weapons visible but hands restrained. They knew why Juncio was here, and they knew what it meant. Park Jinhuan stood at the center, face tight, with fury barely held in check. You've caused chaos, he snapped as Juncio approached. You embarrassed us. Juncio stopped a few feet away. You embarrassed yourselves. Jinhuan scoffed. You think the elders choosing you makes you untouchable? Juncio's gaze was steady. No, it means I'm done pretending we're equals. A murmur rippled through the room. You leaked our accounts, Jinhuan continued. You ruined years of work. You endangered a hospital, Juncio replied calmly. You sent armed men near my child. Jinhuan's jaw clenched. This is business. No, Juncio said quietly. This is family. Silence fell heavy. You want war? Jinhuan asked. Juncio shook his head. I want an end. And how do you propose that? Jinhuan sneered. Juncio stepped closer. You disappear. Quietly. You take your people, your money, what's left of it, and you leave this city. Laughter broke out, sharp and mocking. You think we'll just walk away? Jinhuan said. Juncio leaned in, voice dropping. You already are. The elders are freezing your remaining assets at dawn. Your allies are distancing themselves. By tomorrow night, you won't have protection. The laughter died. Jinhuan's eyes flicked around the room, searching, calculating. And if we refuse? Juncio straightened. Then the city gets messy. And you know I can make that happen. Jinhuan stared at him, hatred burning bright. You changed. Yes, Juncio agreed. And that's why you lost. A long, dangerous pause stretched between them. Finally, Jinhuan exhaled sharply. We leave, he said. But this doesn't end cleanly. Juncio nodded. It never does. The drive back felt longer. Every red light stretched his nerves tighter. Every shadow felt like movement. Juncio didn't relax until the safe house doors shut behind him. Amara was waiting. She stood up the moment she saw him, relief flooding her face. You're back. I told you, he said softly. She rushed to him, careful but desperate, arms wrapping around his neck. For a second, he just held her, grounding himself in her warmth, her heartbeat. Is it over? She whispered. Almost, he replied. Minjae emerged from the hallway, eyes searching Juncio's face. They gone. They will be, Juncio said. By morning. May nodded once. Then we move fast. By sunrise, the city buzzed with quiet shifts in power. The park's properties went dark. Their names vanished from certain conversations. Their presence faded like smoke in the wind. Juncio watched from the window as moving trucks pulled away from buildings once considered untouchable. Amara stood beside him, Arya cradled against her chest. It feels strange, she murmured, seeing it end like this. He nodded. Endings always do. She looked up at him. What happens now? Juncio took a slow breath. Now? I step away. Minjae turned sharply. You're serious? Yes. May folded her arms. The elders won't love that. They agreed, Juncio replied. I stabilize the transition, then I'm out. And us? Amara asked quietly. He turned to her, eyes softening. Us, we leave the city. Her breath caught. Leave? Brooklyn was temporary, he said. I want somewhere quiet. Somewhere normal. She laughed softly, incredulous. You? Normal? He smiled. I can learn. That night, as boxes filled the safe house, Amara sat on the bed feeding Arya, watching Juncio fold clothes with surprising care. You're really doing this, she said. Yes. And you won't miss it? She asked. He paused, then shook his head. I'll miss who I used to think I was. But not who I became. She nodded slowly. I used to think loving you meant accepting the danger. He looked at her. And now? Now I think loving you means building something safer. He crossed the room and kissed her gently. I like that version better. Arya gurgled softly, as if agreeing. Before dawn, Juncio stood alone on the fire escape one last time, city lights flickering below. Amara joined him quietly. Second thoughts? She asked. He shook his head. Just closing a chapter. She slipped her hand into his. You did it. We did, he corrected. He leaned down, pressing a kiss to her forehead. Thank you for staying. For trusting me again. She smiled faintly. Thank you for finally choosing us. Inside, Arya cried softly, calling them back. Juncio turned toward the sound without hesitation. Because this was where he belonged now. The first morning outside the city felt unreal. No sirens. No distant shouts. No tension humming beneath every sound. Juncio stood on the porch of the rented house just beyond the outskirts, watching sunlight spill across a quiet street lined with trees instead of concrete. The air smelled clean. Ordinary. Safe. Behind him, Amara moved slowly through the living room, Arya tucked against her chest, humming softly. The baby's tiny noises filled the space in a way that felt almost sacred. Juncio hadn't realized how loud his old life had been until it was gone. You okay? Amara asked, stepping beside him. He nodded. Just adjusting. She smiled gently. You don't have to be on guard anymore. He exhaled slowly. That's the part I'm still learning. The days that followed were quiet in ways that felt uncomfortable at first. Juncio woke early out of habit, scanning rooms that didn't need scanning. He checked locks that had never been tested. He stood at windows long after nothing happened. Amara noticed everything. "You don't have to prove anything anymore," she said one afternoon as he hovered near the door while she prepared a bottle. "I'm not," he replied. She raised an eyebrow. "Okay," he admitted. "Maybe a little." She crossed the room and took his hands, guiding him gently to sit. "You kept us alive. You fought. You ended it. Now you get to rest." He looked down at their joined hands. "Rest feels dangerous." She squeezed his fingers. "So does love. But we do it anyway." Min-jae visited a week later. He pulled up in an old sedan instead of his usual sleek car, stepping out with a grin that felt almost out of place on his face. "Well," he said, surveying the house, "this is painfully normal." Junseo smirked. "Get used to it." Min-jae glanced at Arya in Amara's arms, his expression softening. "She looks stronger." "She is," Amara said proudly. Min-jae cleared his throat. "The elders finalized everything. You're officially retired." Junseo tilted his head. "That easy?" "Nothing's ever easy," Min-jae replied. "But they won't come for you. You're done." Junseo nodded once. Something in his chest loosened. Before leaving, Min-jae pulled Junseo aside. "You changed the board, Hyung. Not many men walk away." Junseo looked through the window at Amara rocking Arya. Not many men have something worth walking away for. That night, Junseo dreamed for the first time in years. No gunshots. No shadows. Just laughter. He woke to the sound of Arya crying softly, Amara already rising to soothe her. Junseo reached out instinctively. "I've got her." Amara paused. "You sure?" "Yes." He took Arya carefully, cradling her against his chest. She quieted almost immediately, her tiny hand curling into his shirt. Something shifted again. "You know," Amara murmured, watching them. "You're good at this." He looked down at Arya. "I'm trying." "That's enough," she said. Later that week, they sat together on the back steps as dusk settled in. Amara broke the silence. "Do you ever think about what could have happened if I never called you?" Junseo's jaw tightened slightly. "Every day. And does it scare you?" "Yes," he admitted. "But it also reminds me why I can't waste this." She leaned against him. "I didn't tell you because I was scared you'd choose your world over us." He kissed her hair gently. "I should have given you more reasons to trust me. You're giving them now." One afternoon, Junseo received a message he hadn't expected. A job offer. Legitimate. Legal. Quiet. He stared at the email for a long time before showing it to Amara. "You don't have to take it," she said immediately. "I know," he replied. "But I want to build something. Not destroy." She smiled. "I like that." Weeks passed. Then months. Arya grew stronger. Louder. Curious. Junseo learned how to cook badly, then better. How to laugh without checking exits. How to sleep through the night. And Amara watched him heal. One evening, as they lay in bed listening to Arya breathe, Amara whispered, "Do you think we should renew our vows?" Junseo turned to her. "You want to marry me again?" She nodded slowly. This time with honesty. No shadows. His eyes softened. "I'd marry you 100 times if you asked." The ceremony was small. No suits. No power plays. Just close friends, open sky, and promises that felt real. As Junseo slipped the ring onto Amara's finger, his voice shook. "I choose you. Every version of you. Every day." Amara smiled through tears. "And I choose you. Not who you were. Who you are now." Arya slept through the entire thing. That night, Junseo stood in the doorway watching his family sleep. Not guarding. Just watching. For the first time in his life, he wasn't afraid of what tomorrow might bring. Because tomorrow finally felt like his own. If this part warmed your heart, gently like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe people can truly change when love is real? The rain came softly that night. Not the violent kind that reminded Junseo of sirens and running footsteps, but a gentle rhythm against the roof, steady and calm, like the world exhaling. He lay awake beside Amara, listening to it, one arm draped protectively around her as Arya slept in the crib nearby. The house was quiet in a way that still surprised him. Peace had a sound. "Junseo," Amara whispered. "Yes." "Are you awake?" He smiled faintly. "I don't think I'll ever fully sleep again." She turned toward him, her face soft in the dim light. "What are you thinking about?" He hesitated, then answered honestly. "All the moments I almost lost." Her brow creased. "Don't." "I need to," he said gently. "Because they remind me why I won't waste what we have now." She reached for his hand, lacing her fingers through his. "You didn't lose us." "I almost did," he corrected. "And that's enough." Months later, life looked nothing like it used to. Junseo worked a quiet job in logistics, using his sharp mind without using fear. He came home at the same time every day. He cooked dinner, sometimes edible, sometimes not. He learned how to change diapers faster than Amara. He learned how to laugh. Real laughter. Amara returned to work part-time, balancing her days between her career and motherhood. She was stronger now, not hardened, but rooted. She watched Junseo closely, not out of fear, but admiration. One afternoon, she found him in the backyard, sitting on the grass with Arya balanced clumsily in his lap, reading aloud from a children's book with serious concentration. She leaned against the doorframe, smiling. You're very intense for a story about ducks, she teased. He looked up. It's important she understands the plot. Arya squealed. Amara laughed. She's 3 months old. She's advanced, he replied solemnly. That was when Amara knew. This man wasn't pretending anymore. He had truly changed. But the past never disappeared completely. One evening, a familiar car passed slowly down the street. Juncio noticed immediately. He didn't panic. He didn't reach for a weapon. He simply watched until it drove away. Later, Amara asked, "Everything okay?" "Yes," he said calmly. "Just old ghosts checking if I'm still alive." She studied his face. "And are you afraid?" He shook his head. "No, because they don't own me anymore." She smiled softly. "Good." On Arya's first birthday, they kept it simple. Cake, balloons, a few close friends. Juncio held Arya as she smashed frosting between her fingers, laughing harder than anyone else in the room. Minjae watched from the corner, shaking his head. "If the elders could see you now." Juncio shrugged. "They got what they wanted. Stability. And you?" Minjae asked. Juncio looked down at his daughter. "I got everything." That night, after everyone left, Juncio and Amara sat together on the porch steps, watching fireflies blink in the dark. "Do you ever regret leaving?" Amara asked quietly. Juncio thought for a moment. "I regret staying too long." She nodded. "Me too." He turned to her. "Thank you for not giving up on me, even when you had every reason to." She met his gaze. "Thank you for becoming someone worth trusting." They leaned into each other, silence settling comfortably between them. Years later, Arya would grow up knowing 2 truths. That her parents' love wasn't perfect, and that it was chosen, again and again. She would know her father not as a ruthless man whispered about in dark rooms, but as the one who packed her lunches, taught her to ride a bike, and never missed a school event. And Juncio would carry his past not as a burden, but as proof of how far he'd come. Because redemption wasn't about erasing who you were. It was about deciding who you'd become. And every morning, Juncio chose his family. Again, and again, and again. If you made it to the end of this story, thank you from my heart. If this journey moved you even a little, gently like the video, subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories like this, and share your thoughts in the comments. What part of Juncio and Amara's journey stayed with you the most? Your support truly keeps stories like this alive.